Hi, these comments are for GE. I am Michael from OTC, OnlineTOEFLCourse.com. And thank you for completing the writing practice test. And I'm getting ready to read it right now. Okay, so you have neighbors are the people who live near us. In your opinion, what are the qualities of a good neighbor? Use specific details and examples in your answer. All right, so this is the introduction. You're kind of setting up the paper, right? So you say some argue that well-qualified neighbors must help each other and that the neighborhood can be filled with love, while some people assert that ideal neighbors are those who are honest because interpersonal communication will become much easier in order to build a trustful relationship compared to those neighbors who shut people off. And that is a very well-written sentence. Crap. Where did that come from? 53 words? Good gracious. So you're creating a complex, complex sentence here? Wow, my goodness. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. First of all, neighbors should support each other. You have, in any given circumstance, inasmuch as a neighborhood will be a place where it loads with endless love and support. For instance, my electricity got cut off when I was cooking my supper last month. During that time, I was panicked and worried, thinking about how you got to change this to statement word order because it's a noun clause. How I could finish my cooking. Luckily, I thought about my neighbor, a young lady who lived next to me. I asked if she could lend me an induction cooker for me to continue to make my meal. For me to continue, I'm going to put here, change this to making. With no excuses, she accepted my inquiry. Thanks to my neighbor's kindness, I was able to enjoy my supper carefree. In addition, rarely did everyone disprove the idea of constructing an elevator in our apartment, except, I think you want to say here, except for one of the neighbors who lived on rarely did everyone disprove the idea of constructing an elevator in our apartment except for one of the neighbors who lived, I'm going to put on the top floor. And I think here, this needs to be a part of CPO adjective here. I'm going to say living. So one of the neighbors living on the top floor, and then put the adjective clause, who refused to accept the idea of elevator construction. In this case, my neighbor living next to me stepped out, tried to be a person who, I'm going to put who could convince this stubborn neighbor who lived a high floor above the elevator's issue. Who lived, I'm going to put a floor higher, a floor who lived a higher floor above the elevator's issue. As a result, knowing that this high floor living neighbor faced the money shortage problem, my neighbor who lives next to me took responsibility for paying the fees of the elevator construction generously. Because of my neighbor's generosity, the elevator I'm going to put was to be constructed, thereby benefiting the lives of our neighborhood. Therefore, from these two examples, neighborhoods will become a better place. I'm going to put here when it is filled with love and support, if everyone supports each other in any given circumstance. Okay, there. Okay, so I did have to make quite a few corrections there. Now let's go back to the thesis. Some argue that well-qualified neighbors must help each other and that the neighborhood can be filled with love, while others assert that neighbors are those who are on. Okay, now you got it. You illustrated that point in this paragraph. So, wow, 255 word paragraph. Woo! So I would be okay with just what you did here. Maybe develop this idea a little bit more. It's already 100 words. So I think between 100 and 150 is fine if you have 3 body paragraphs. 250 though, whew, my goodness. You can't have 3 paragraphs that big for the TOEFL. It takes too much time to do that. Okay, so that's my advice here is both of your examples are incredibly well developed, right? But that's a lot of time, and you don't have that kind of time when you're doing the TOEFL exam. So it's probably better to just stick with your topic of support. Neighbors can support each other. Then give the example about your electricity being cut off. Maybe develop that a little more if you want. But I would just stick with that. That's a great example. The other one's also really good, but I don't think you need both in the same paragraph. That's my advice on that. I did make a lot of corrections here, but I want to tell you that I know that you can write some incredibly complicated sentences because you did right here. But be careful about a lot of, say, 40 to 50 word sentences. That's probably a little too much. I would keep it down. I would keep them between 20 and 30. That's probably safer. And then, like I was telling one of my other students, it's okay to have a short sentence. You might have 2 or 3 longer sentences. Then you have a 10 to 20 word sentence in there. There's no problem with doing that either. Okay, let's take a look at the grammar check on this. I just want to get a general idea of what your writing looks like when I check it. Okay, you got quite a few spelling problems. I'm not going to worry about that. And it's looking at British English versus... So I'm going to say I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, your writing level here it's good. It's 11.6, almost 12. So your writing level is pretty good. You're doing a good job on that, but you're still having some problems with your grammar there. So, but I like how you're using. You're going out of your way to write some longer sentences and sentences with different syntactic varieties and word orders. I think is also a good strategy. For example, rarely did everyone disprove the idea. Right? So you're putting the almost negative adverb first, then the auxiliary verb, then the subject, and then the main verb. So I'm guessing the writing, if I saw every single paragraph and read the whole thing, depending on the number of errors, you're probably between 22 and 24 points out of 30.